Gentlemen, today we're talking about 2002 action thriller, maybe Matt Damon's best work, $60 million budget, $214 million in the box office, multiple award winner, top five greatest series of all time, The Bourne Identity.
Listen, if I even feel somebody on my back, how fast and how hard I will bring this fight to your doorstep.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, Matt Damon, dude, he's a bad boy. That's the dude. Yo, this was genius.
This is one of those first movies that actually made me want to be out there fighting, like beating people down and stuff like that. This is that movie that did it for me.
Yeah, it makes you feel like you were better than you were.
Yeah, exactly.
This movie, right? So for me, once Bond kind of came to infamy and the Brosnan era started kind of fading out where it wasn't as good, this movie hit at the right time for me, where it was like, yes, I got a new spy, and it was such a different feel to it that it was so much more grounded that I was like, this movie not only saved the spy genre, I felt, but at that point, but it's also saved Matt Damon's career at that point, because Matt Damon at that point was kind of struggling too. Last movie being before it was Bagger Vance, which didn't do anything. And Matt Damon, being such a great actor, you think to yourself, like, he's always done make great movies. He's always been on top. Not quite, but this movie, man, it was one of the, when you talk about espionage thrillers, like, this movie was what really, really kind of got things cranking, like in was that late 2000s.
Yeah. It's when I think of movies like this, there's three series or series or whatever you want to call it that I think of. Is James Bond, Bourne, and Mission Impossible. And I would say Bourne is probably one of my favorite ones, because now, Adrian, the reason why I hated James Bond was because James Bond in the beginning, back in the days, it was just like he was perfect. He was beating up everybody, never messed up his suit, his shirt, his tie, nothing never got messed up. And I hated that. That's the reason why I didn't like James Bond. But we felt him in the beginning of the movie in the water with 2 shells in his back, right? He got shot in the beginning of the movie. So I love the fact that he be taking a beating, in this movie.
Well, and that was the other thing. I'm sorry, I'll throw it to you in a second. But that was the thing that kind of just brought people into it, I felt, because he was so realistic. You said you want to go and start fighting people, is because the fighting style they use, and I forget what it's called, but it was like a real fighting style. It was more about how quickly can I get the person to the ground versus how flashy could I be in this fight scene. So the scenes were never really flashy. The fight scenes were never really flashy, but they were always memorable, which is something that kind of stuck out to me in these films.
I mean, think about his first real fight scene, right? The first one, when he was laying on the bench and the 2 cops came up to him, like, he didn't know who he was. He couldn't remember. He over here beating up both cops, and he's surprised that he's going like, what's going on here? Like, it was amazing. And that's another thing that made that movie great. The fact that he didn't know who he was, it was like we was on a journey of discovery with him. And that kind of it pulled you in even more. You're like, who are you? Like, what's happening here? Like, you got a gun in your safe. Like, what's happening? You got guns, you got IDs. Like, what's going on? So I loved it. And I loved the whole thing.
I had one conflict, though. I did have one conflict.
Oh, of course you did.
Listen. They took my man Wambosi out a little too early for me.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. But can I just say, I love him as an actor, right?
Oh,
But
absolutely.
in this movie, he overacted being African. I was like, yo, bro, you're overacting it right now. Like, all his people around him, all his African bodyguards, they all was like nice and easy, nice and cool. I could see them being African, but he overacted. I was like, bro, you
Well,
going
I mean,
over the
in his
top.
defense, he was the captain,
He was.
and his life was threatened. I would be a little overhyped.
It
I
was.
would be hyped.
But I mean, the way, the mannerisms that he was using, I was like, you're going too deep. Relax just a little
He
bit.
brought up
He
that
had to come in.
animation.
he had to come in because he was out there, about to like start snitching on people and writing
no, he
books
did,
and whatnot. Yeah,
He did.
he had to come in. Then he was all extra flamboyant about it,
Yeah,
on TV and like
They came
being
on my man's boat.
allowed.
They came
Yeah,
on his boat, dog.
his kids in his arms and laying next to him.
Come on, now.
Yeah, but what I thought about was something that Adrian told me a long time ago, years ago. He told me there's the difference between the stage acting and the movie acting. I felt like he was doing stage acting in the movie. I'm like, you're doing too much. Drop it down just a little bit.
And what Mo's referring to is that the point where you're a stage actor, you have to play to the whole audience. Like, so you have to make these grand big gestures when you're acting on stage and play.
Mm-hmm.
In a movie, because the camera can do so much, it can be just simple facial gestures or movements or roles of how you use your eyes that can really sell the scene. So I think that's a good point. That's the first time I even thought about that. He was really doing more of a stage actor performance in that part.
You see that in the opera as well.
Yep.
A lot of big stage acting and that kind of stuff. So there's a part of the story here where Jason's trying to escape and he ends up running into the embassy, right? And then they stop the guys chasing him like, hey, no, you can't come in here, etc., etc. Right? Jason's in the embassy and he's waiting in line. And of course, that's when we get our first start of Marie, who's having her own difficulties at the counter.
Yeah.
Can someone explain to me why they stormed the embassy? Why did they all of a sudden start chasing Jason inside the embassy?
I thought CIA put up a red flag.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. There was a. If I remember correctly, there was like some sort of alert or some sort of notification that went out that he was on, he was on, that had them go in and do that. I don't remember the exact details of that part, but yeah, I thought there was something that happened when they came across that told them that it was okay to go in there, or let them know it was okay to go in there. Maybe they got permission from the government. I don't know specifically, but yeah.
I was totally baffled as to, I thought he was in a safe haven. I thought he was good money.
He's supposed to have been.
Oh shit, gotta be careful out
here. You want the red back, stop coming right now. Like, yeah. The whole thing. Can I say this now real quick? Now we're talking about the embassy. Yo, it was so, I love the movie, don't get me wrong. But the fact when that thing first broke, when he was on the fire escape and it first broke, and then he grabbed onto the roof, you could tell that was a stunt double so bad. It was like a whole chubby big guy. It was like they got like a 200-pound man to play that role all of a sudden. I said, what in the world is happening here?
Well, you gotta remember the budget wasn't the hugest budget. So Charles,
I know, but you could do better than that, Adrian.
You probably have padding on. You probably think you fall.
I think that's what it was. It definitely was the padding, but you could tell the difference.
In that embassy scene, the other thing too, that I like that scene because it was kind of when you first started to see that he was more than just muscle, right? He uses his wits to kind of outsmart and outthink everyone that was kind of coming after him in that scene. So that's when you kind of got the feeling like he was a different kind of spy from what we were used to seeing in films, where it was kind of again a bit more flashy, and more of like I can take on 30 people and not sweat it, just by standing there. With him, it was definitely more of like let me use my surroundings and have it feel more real world. So that was a great part about that scene in the embassy.
Yeah.
He's leaving the embassy at this point. He escapes to the embassy somehow, and miraculously he meets Marie outside, right? The thing I said as I watched it was, she just committed suicide. The minute she let him in the car, her life was over. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you always got that sacrifice. You got to sacrifice that lamb to get away. She was that lamb. She definitely was the lamb.
I'm glad we're on her. The Franka Potente. Yo, she's one of my favorite actresses. Okay, she's bad. That's a bad chick.
No, she is, but
great actress.
Yeah.
Can I just make a declaration here really quickly as we continue to talk about this movie? You know, don't bring drama to my front door. So listen, he hadn't seen Marie. This dude Iman, he hadn't seen her in forever, right?
Yeah,
and you know he spoke up and said, "Hi, Iman, it's me." So first off, if I pull up to Adrian's house, I don't gotta say, "Hi, Adrian, it's me, Charles."
Not even you pull up to my house, Chuck. I pull up to my house and you're already inside. So that was the issue that came up with her. I'm like, okay, she's in the house. It's kind of like, oh, I didn't know you would be here. Well, it's my house. Like, I mean, what do you think? What do you think I'd be? You know, like, it's not your house. Why would you be here in my house with some random guy I don't know? Right? That's just bad manners all around. It's bad manners.
He loses his whole house to this shit. I don't. Clearly, you're not like a sibling. You're not a sibling. You wouldn't have said, "Hi, it's me, John." Get the fuck out of here. You're not a sibling. So you're like a distant cousin. You're like somebody, like a friend of a friend. And now my house is just.
While we're still on that scene, right? Another important part of the character development in that scene was that conversation he had with Clive Owen.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right before he was about to die. Because at that point, like he had finally found like someone who kind of understood him and knew what was going on there. So throughout the whole conversation, you got to feel like they were like like they're almost like friends, even though they weren't. One of them was going to kill the other one. But that one was kind of I thought was kind of a key thing I took away from that scene was like, so he finally found someone that understands him and understands what he's going. That I kind of understand what he's going through. When he started talking about, do you get the headaches? Do you get the headaches? And it was like the common ground. So that was that I thought was kind of a key part to his character development, was kind of meeting that person and understanding like there's more of us out there.
100%.
I feel like Clive Owen was disrespected. He's one of my favorite actors. They did him dirty. They should have did him better than that. Like he got punked in that. But go ahead.
No, I disagree. And so just one of my points was that was the first time I've ever seen Clive Owen in a film. Did you guys see Clive Owen before that? Or the movie that he was in I'm not thinking about?
He's probably in films before that. Well, think about it, the time frame when that came out. Because that was when he
2002.
Yeah, because the movie
around for a while, bro.
He may have been around for a while, but he didn't have any really a lot of leading roles before.
Because remember the movie we did Closer? That's 2004. He was one of the main roles.
That was 2 years later.
Yeah, but he got a whole main role on that. I'm just saying he was around. He was around.
He was around. It was his first movie. It was in his first acting gig. We're saying, but we're saying it's the first time that you already seen him and noticed him was in this film. And Chuck, I'm sorry, give that to you in a second here, Chuck. But that was something that I noticed in this series. And when we talk about the next film, we can talk about it too. But there are actors in these movies that they're finding and casting before they become big names. And I was like, now that's good casting right there. Because Clive Owen no one knew Clive Owen. No one knew who Clive Owen was when this movie came out. And the next one we had, we'll talk. I'll bring the character, the gentleman, then later on. But there's a couple of times where they bring out actors that you see them for the first time in these Bourne films, and then fast forward 3 years and just starting in their own work, so their own film. So that's something I'll give kudos to the casting folks there.
We've talked multiple times in this series about legendary casting. What we don't often talk about is legendary casting in the supporting roles. People who's in the supporting roles for this film. Clive Owen, we just talked about. Brian Cox, who I love Brian Cox. I think he does.
Brian Cox is amazing.
Chris Cooper is in this film. He does great work in most films that he's in. This is supporting cast. Are you kidding me? Excellent work. Excellent work by supporting cast.
Listen, and if you don't know, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
So you were talking about the ingenuity that Bourne shows early in the film outside of brute strength. Another example is here in this same scene with the house of Clive Owen, where he just hears the kids come in. Where's the dog? The dog's missing, right? Now, me and you say, who cares about that dog? You know what I mean? Whatever. We can go about. We got bigger drama going on right now, right? But he's already like, wait a minute. The first thing I would do is take out the dog. He's already putting himself in another perspective. Hey, y'all are in danger. This situation is about to go somewhere else. You know what I mean? Amazing ingenuity by Bourne there. Go ahead, Adrian. I'm sorry. No.
That was good. That's a good point. It's a good call out. And so I was just going to say, when you mentioned Brian Cox, so I was saying, if you don't know who Brian Cox is, check his work and go and watch any season of Succession on HBO. And Brian Cox as the patriarch in that family is by far one of the best characters I've seen on a TV show. Like you love to hate him because he's so cold and calculating. But I'm digressing. But again, so at this point, Brian, I didn't really know who Brian Cox was when this film came out. So again, another call to the casting there, because later on we will see him in the X-Men 2 movie. And you'll see him in a bunch of other stuff afterwards, and then you kind of knew, oh, this is Brian Cox. You know, he's been acting forever, but the Bourne movies were like he really got mainstream here in the U.S. I thought when people really started mentioning him.
Mm-hmm. Now to add to your point, Chuck, of when you was talking about how he knew, like, I would take out the dog first. That's the first thing I do. Remember when they was in the restaurant? He was doing the whole rundown. He was talking about the guy over there, 210 pounds. Our waiter's left-handed. I memorized all 6 license plates on the outside. I know every exit, this and that. Like, I love that. That's the kind of thing, like, they're showing how his mind, his brain, how the brain of a spy/assassin works, how it moves, how it's always thinking, how it's always trying to protect itself. I love it.
Adrian, Jamal and Moan have both offered little pieces of criticisms about this film, right? Mm-hmm. I would be remiss if I didn't offer my own.
Okay.
Moan doesn't like the fat stuff, man. You know, there's some things here. Right?
Yeah.
Eventually, the CIA sends out a group of assassins, Clive Owen being one of them, to go kill Jason Bourne. They're sick of this shit. One of them is this blonde guy. Listen, man, I don't know what part of covert, I don't know what part of this bozo comes crashing through the window.
He's the worst.
He's the worst. That's the sloppiest assassin I've ever seen in my life.
He's the worst.
Oh, but you know what, Chuck? You got to remember this, though. The funny thing about this whole thing was the development is that you're getting to witness the best spy that they have. Like, this dude is like he's like a legend. He's like a legend in that world. You know what I mean? Like, even the spies that are going after him are like, oh, shit. Like, we got to go and hit this dude. This is nuts. Like,
so in defense of my guy with the blonde hair, Maul, so you gotta think of it. You know, being covert means blending in, and I don't know what his mission was before he got called in to see Bourne, but maybe he was in a place where a lot of people had, like, you know, frosted tips or spiky blonde hair. Now, it was the early 2000s, so it's very possible that you know, everyone on his street had that same hairstyle. So that's just my point.
I knew what. Marseille or something like that. Like, they was like some German place.
I knew he was a clown when they showed him on the screen, because even with the other 2 assassins, they showed him it was all in a serious kind of moment. They got the page. They looked at the phone. This dude was riding a scooter. Didn't even get a call on the page. He was on the scooter when they put him on the screen. He's like, I'm gonna kill him. Like I knew he was a clown.
He's European.
This is the assassin.
Go home, man. This is how you leave. This is how you leave. It's like those, those mission movies where the detective is so dumb. Like that was him. Like go home, man. Go home. You're fumbling all over the place.
Hey, but he did give a better chance to almost not close to taking him out, but a better chance than Clive Owen did.
Yeah, he did. That was disrespectful to Clive.
That was disrespectful.
That was disrespectful to Clive. That's what I was saying. Disrespected my boy.
Can I make one of the observation here real quick in the style of filming they did? So this was the first film that I saw. No, sorry, not the first, but the first film that I saw that I really liked that used that shaky single camera technique, where you kind of really got that feel like you were in the fight. You were really watching the fight because the camera's moving when he's moving, and we see that in so many movies now. A couple that we reviewed, a couple we probably will review, but where they're not using the train, the rail system to move the camera back and forth. They're not using the crane. Somebody's holding this camera and running with it, and purposely making it shaky so that you get that feel to it. So that was something that when I first saw the movie the first time, I noticed that, and I was like, why are they doing that for the first 30 seconds, and afterwards you're gonna get the feel when the fights break out. It really hits different, to the audience.
Yeah, I appreciate it for sure. I appreciate that new look. You know what I mean? That new feel of being involved in the scene. I was here for that. Let's get into our reviews. 1 through 5 here on the Unspoken podcast review. 1 means you could have kept that in the can. 5 means it's a classic. We have 1 classic in at this point. We'll start with Adrian Springer. 1 through 5, Adrian. What's your grade for the Bourne Identity?
So, again, being a fan of the spy genre and trying to be objective, I looked through it scene by scene as I was watching it, trying to figure out what don't I like about this movie. What don't I like about this movie? And there really wasn't much there. I mean, it was slower paced at some points, but that was intentional because this is a thinking man's spy. So I'm actually gonna go with a 5 for this movie, and because I think that's where I think it's that good.
It's a big number. That's a big number.
That's a huge number.
Bourne Identity.
Good Lord.
What do you give it? 1 through 5.
I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4. I loved it. I actually did love it. I do think this is probably one of my favorite out of the spies kind of movies. So I do love the movie, but can I just emphasize how much I just didn't like what they did to my boy Clive Owens? And his overacting.
Get over it.
His overacting when it came to the African guy. Listen. He played another African guy in the TV series Lost. He did that role perfectly. Do y'all remember that? He played that role perfectly. Like, what is that? What was that he was doing in this movie? I don't understand what he was doing.
Well, this is pre-Lost, right? This is pre-Lost.
Well, yeah. Well, okay, maybe it was his practice run. I guess, but I'm gonna give it a 4 because I think it was really good.
Jamal, Bourne Identity, 1 through 5.
5.
Don't justify Adrian.
Listen.
Get out of here, man.
There was so many parts of this movie. Like, we didn't even get into the car scene. That was fire.
Hey, he's all that. This movie's always good for good car chase. Yeah.
And when it first came on the scene, like you said, there was no like spy movie like this. This was on its own genre, Mm-hmm. I loved it. So I'm definitely, the cast was amazing. You know what I mean? Anything with the cast amazing, action scenes are dope. You know what I mean? Like, no one was overshadowing anybody in terms of like the whole acting game. I think it was dope. I definitely have to give it 5.
Yeah, Jamal. You talked about the action scenes, and we really didn't get into it, and that's too bad because this Bourne Identity was award winning for those car scenes, for
Hands
those
down.
fight scenes. This is award winning. Like this is top shelf stuff you're seeing here. Also, secondarily, anytime you see a movie with psychogenic amnesia, it's normally a crutch, right? Normally, it's like, boy, this is going nowhere fast. Anytime you see a movie with amnesia, you're like, this one they did pretty well. It worked with the storyline. It tied in well. I'm calling it a 5. This movie is a 5. It's absolutely a classic. Well,
don't make me the odd man out. Get out of here, man. Don't do that.
You made your choice, Cloud.
It's a 4, man.
We always tie these sessions off with an amazing Springer quote of the film. Adrian, talk to us.
All right. Well, first I want to say Moan's wrong for his grade.
Yeah,
we all know he's wrong. Quote of the movie, and I'm going to leave out some expletives for the kids. So Jason Bourne, who am I? Conklin, you're a U.S. government property. You're a malfunctioning $30 million weapon. You're a total GD catastrophe, and by God, if it kills me, you're going to tell me how this happened. That, in a nutshell, was the theme of the movie. An expensive individual who took all this training that just went haywire and made for a 5-star movie. Moan.
4-star movie, but he went haywire in a good way, because usually when people go haywire, they go bad and they become like evil. They become the villain. He actually became more of a hero, not wanting to kill somebody.
How many people did he kill?
Hey.
A lot.
The people he did kill deserved it.
Once again, this is the Unspoken podcast. Like, subscribe.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Bringing you guys content. If you have movies you want us to review, throw those down in the comments. We'll add them to our list. The beauty of films and the beauty of cinema is that the content created is endless, and we're here for all of that. So until next time, we out.